Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Teach for Justice podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Becky Keene, the Director of Operations for Insight to Execution, where she leads teams in developing professional learning content for global edtech companies and supporting systemic change in major U.S. school systems. A passionate advocate for game-based learning, she also serves as board chair for Phygital Labs and has worked with educators on 4 continents. Becky is the co-author of Sail the Seven Seas with Microsoft Education and has contributed to multiple professional development programs, including the AI and Education Pathway for Microsoft Learn. With a background in classroom teaching, coaching, and program management, she brings deep expertise in literacy, educational technology, and digital transformation. I'm excited to explore her insights on edtech game-based learning and the future of education. I had the honor and pleasure of meeting Becky recently at the Illinois Digital Educator Alliance Conference, known as IdeaCon, where we both were featured speakers and thought leaders. And I'm grateful and excited to have her on the show. Welcome, Becky.
Thanks, Alfredo. It's a joy to be with you, and it was so fun to have a chance to get to connect with you in Illinois.
Yeah, super fun. So your career transitioned from classroom teaching to educational consultancy. What motivated this shift, and how has your commitment to equity and compassion shaped your approach to supporting educators and students in diverse learning environments?
Well, my classroom experience is in Kent School District, which is about 10 miles south of Seattle in Washington in the United States. And we have an incredibly diverse school system with, when I was there, 140 languages, a
Wow.
lot of, yes, a lot of high need environments, a lot of students, just a huge range of students. And I taught at most recently at a middle school that is our highest need middle school in the community. Um, and and just absolutely enjoyed very much my time. But I had opportunities as a professional to kind of grow my influence, if you will. So an
Hmm.
opportunity to kind of throw my pebble in the pond and see the ripple effect of the things that I had been doing getting brought to more teachers around the community, around the school district, and then eventually outside of our school district. And I, got asked to share with neighboring school districts and then share with a local conference and then go to a national conference. And that all started about 20 years ago, which is crazy.
Hmm.
But just that opportunity to shift um, my circle of influence and that opportunity to indirectly impact students everywhere was really appealing to me. Even though sometimes people ask, oh, do you miss the classroom? And I absolutely miss working with kids every day. But there's just something really rewarding about being able to work in a broader sense for me. And so that is kind of how that shift started. But I will say the because of that, I've now been able to work with inner city schools and very rural schools and international schools. And my approach, I feel, is always very similar. And it's how I try to live my life. One of those things is people first.
Hmm.
So, just understanding the person at home. I say to my children, people over plans. Like we might have had a plan to do something today, but this person was more important. Maybe they were hurt or they needed our help or they, you know, didn't feel well today and we had to not go to the park, right? All those things that just help us remember that people are more important. And I try to bring that into education when I work with teachers and with schools to be thinking about, but what do our students need and where are they at? And it's great that we have these programs and curriculum, and it's not always great that we have lots of programs and curriculum, but like, what is it that is going to get us to the learner? And to be people first, you have to know the story. You have to know the background of kids and their families. You have to know what's going on in your community. You have to kind of like be on social media and have the pulse of the culture that you're invested in. And so those are some of the types of things that have meant a lot to me, that I hope I bring to every system that I work with.
Well, I appreciate you saying that you hope you bring that. And let me just say, from my interaction with you, I really felt it when you said people over plans. And we'll talk about your social media presence here in a minute. And I highly encourage people to check you out on social media. But my interaction with you and observing you and the things we had to do in Illinois was definitely people first, because it's easy to think, oh, Becky Keene, from all of the things we see you at, because you're definitely a hard worker. But I very much felt and saw and was so honored to witness just how you do make people feel very comfortable. I did not realize that about Kent, Washington having, or parts of Kent, Washington having 140 languages. Um, and that makes so much more sense that you felt prepared and comfortable and have been so effective working on 4 different continents, because you have so many perspectives that you've seen firsthand. That's pretty awesome. So let's talk about your current work as the director of operations at Insight to Execution,
Yep.
I2E.
I do. Yep.
What challenges do you face in promoting equitable access to educational technology? And how do you ensure that all students, regardless of background, have opportunities to thrive?
Well, so the work that I do at I2E, which is incredibly validating and fun and wonderful, and I'm so fortunate to have that position. But a lot of what I get to do is kind of a lot of talking, a lot of professional development, working with schools. And one of the challenges that we have, I'm just going to be totally just kind of business transparent here, is that like I have a job, right? This is my job. We have staff that we pay. And sometimes school systems don't have the finances to bring us in, and so they really, really want free training. And we try to offer a lot of no cost or very low cost opportunities through, we'll offer webinars, or we've got our YouTube channel where people can always get access to, recorded events that we've chosen to share there. Our monthly free webinars go there. But at the end of the day, like I have a job that has a paycheck to help my family, and so there is a cost associated with our work. And so one of the challenges we have is just helping schools prioritize that support, because they're coming to us asking for it. They know they want the training or the support. But then how we help them get that in their schools, whether it's through Title II funding or through, grant funding or other mechanisms. Sometimes, major companies will kind of help out a school system and say, okay, we'll help you get started with some training on these tools. But that is a big challenge, is just budget, right? And schools are having to shift
Right.
priorities around a lot for everyone's competing initiatives. Um, so that's kind of a big deal in our world. And one of the things we've seen that has been the most high value has been esports. Um,
Nice.
yeah. So I know you mentioned, like, let's talk about game-based learning, and our our esports program is specifically coaching training. So it's not about like the hardware or, what title should we play, or helping. We can even help you run a tournament, although that's not what we normally are doing. Most often, we're in working with esports coaches. And one of the things that we really prioritize is helping them understand how to build inclusive programs. And so that esports is just this great opportunity to be universal, where any kid can participate regardless of their background, regardless of whether they play at home. It doesn't matter if they even want to be a gamer. There's a place for all kids in an esports program. And I think that's incredible. And so we've just chosen as a company to develop curriculum and to partner with schools to really develop esports programs in an intentional way, because we know, we've seen evidence that more kids being involved in a school program and having a relationship with an adult means they will stay better connected and have a healthier school career. So that's been a way that we've been able to kind of impact many students.
So you get them hooked on something that they can do, that they enjoy doing, and then maybe you have the coaches build those relationships and
We swoop in with do your homework. No.
yeah, right. I mean, it's a little shady, but if it works, it works, right? And you
Right,
coach them
right.
how to do it so it doesn't
Yeah. It's kind
necessarily
of
feel
about,
shady.
understanding that like every kid brings value to something
Hmm.
and building that confidence in them to be able to say like, okay, maybe I am an awesome player at a game, League of Legends or Smash Bros or whatever they're playing, but also maybe they're a great observer, or maybe they're a great tournament coordinator, or maybe they provide the snacks through culinary arts, or maybe they're building the desks in the fabrication lab, or maybe they're shoutcasting, maybe they're running the merch shop. There's just all these pathways that students can participate in an esports program, that are really exciting. And you're right. Once you're in a program and you're building relationships with kids and they feel like they're a part of a community, they are more likely to attend school. They're less likely to have behavior outbursts. They're more likely to complete their work academically because they have motivation to do that. So, I mean, it's beneficial all around.
Love it. So speaking of coaches and teaching
Oh, yeah.
teachers and coaching coaches, the Microsoft Certified Coach Program, which you co-authored,
Yes.
emphasizes instructional coaching practices. How can instructional coaching contribute to safe and supportive learning spaces for all students?
So, thank you for bringing this up. It's been a really exciting adventure to author and build that program from scratch. We've now delivered it to several hundred educators worldwide, and it's been incredible. Very exciting. It's not funded by Microsoft. It's an I2E project that we chose to do, and it's been really fun. And one of the ISTE standards for coaches, I want to point out, under the change agent umbrella, specifically emphasizes the role that coaches play in facilitating. It says specifically, I'm going to quote this: the equitable use of digital learning tools and
Yep.
content to meet the needs of diverse learners. So, a coach that's following the ISTE standards for coaches, which we know are a worldwide standard,
Hmm.
is then working with schools to help them understand how do we build access for all. And some of our coaches, not really digging into that standard before they've taken the coaching academy, they're like, "Oh yeah, I make sure every class has access to the laptop cart, right?" Or,
And
everybody
that's
gets,
it, right? That's the
right, like
extent
equitable
of
access.
the. They have the
Yeah.
doors open.
Yeah, or like, "Oh, every I make sure every kid gets a chance to come into the computer lab once a quarter," And that is awesome that we're making sure kids have access to tools. But that's actually not what this standard is talking about. And so in the coaching academy, we dig into the standard is actually highlighting creating learning environments that are inclusive and accessible. And that's different than making sure everyone has a turn, right? And so that's been a
Yeah.
really good opportunity to help kind of surface that understanding of, what does it mean that Book Creator, I'm not here to sell Book Creator, but like Book
Right.
Creator just this month launched their dictation, translation, audio support because they
Hmm.
know that that adds value and that all kids should be able to participate in making books. So those types of learning environments are incredibly important.
All right, people, you heard it here. You're not getting past Becky Keene. You're not getting past I2E with your certification unless you understand that equity and access are more than just opening up the cart, making sure they can log on to the internet. Really, really appreciate that. Um, let's look at another underserved group, or a group people consider really tough to support. Your recent renewal of your national board certification
Mhm.
in English language arts for early adolescence underscores your dedication to lifelong learning. Are there unique challenges to early adolescent teaching practices, especially when working with educators serving these marginalized communities?
The short answer is yes.
Right.
Yes, there are unique challenges to working with early adolescents.
But what are a
Um,
couple of those? Right. I know that's a long answer, but what are a couple of those that people might not know?
right. So I never thought I would teach middle school, and then I did. And then I stuck with middle school, and then I've gone back to do middle school to maintain my national board and to do other things like my ISTE cert and so on. And um, they adolescence is such a unique time of life. And early adolescence for the national boards is ages 11 to 14. So it's really before they have a lot of autonomy. They're depending on people to drive them places, but they want to go places. They they probably have a phone. They probably honestly have social media too early, in my opinion. And so they're having to manage a lot of very adult wants and needs with this body and brain that are not anywhere near fully developed. They don't have great decision making skills, just physiologically, right? It's
Oh
not a
yeah,
fault.
terrible. I
It's
have a middle school son, and him and his buddies have terrible decision making
and you're
skills.
like, what were you thinking? And they literally weren't thinking. It's not that they were trying to be mean, rude, or destructive. It just literally hasn't happened in their brain, right?
My first teaching job was middle school, and
Oh,
I learned very quickly that sometimes when you ask a middle school student, why did you do that?
oh.
They'll say, I don't know. And I
Mhm.
learned from great, well meaning kids
Mhm.
that sometimes they legitimately don't know.
They
Like
don't know.
they're not refusing to tell you. They're not withholding information.
Yeah.
They don't know why they made the decision that they made that is
Yeah.
causing the conversation you're having.
They legitimately didn't process the information before the action, right?
But somebody
Um,
said watch this before they did whatever they did.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, and someone recorded it and posted it, and
Yeah, right,
and they're
right.
proud or whatever. So it's this shift in, and in language arts and literacy specifically, we talk a lot about characterization and emotion and conflict resolution and all these themes that happen in literature and poetry. And a lot of times these kids are recognizing injustice in the world. They're
Hmm.
recognizing what makes them frustrated. They're recognizing what doesn't, big emotions. And so we really have to focus on processing those things in healthy ways. And I think literature is an excellent place to do that because it allows us to talk about someone else who is possibly fictional or maybe
Right,
someone in history, right? And we can point to maybe some of their um, you know, mistakes or challenges or regrets, and then just have those healthy conversations without calling out kids individually. Like, "Hey, Alfredo, I noticed over the weekend." Like,
right, right,
you can have those really good conversations, ab- and as a reflective moment, and kind of giving them pathways, not expecting them to do more than their bodies will allow, but giving them a pathway to understand big topics, and then what do I do about those things?
right.
Who do I go to?
Responses, right? Appropriate responses, healthy
Right,
responses
right,
to
right.
to the aftermath of either a bad decision or just like you mentioned, feelings. Yeah, the appropriate responses to these big feelings that are many of them are new.
Mhm.
And we don't. I mean, I taught middle school. They didn't say, okay, here's how you teach the kids to respond to big feelings.
No.
Um, and so you had to sort of wing it. And I have so much of a different perspective now with a middle schooler.
Mhm.
Um,
I
you
think
mentioned. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think if I could just add one more thing onto that, I've noticed this. What I feel is an unhealthy amount of focus on self, where everything becomes about me, right? And if I'm a people first, you already heard, we talked at the beginning, if I'm a,
Mhm.
people first, then I think we've almost gone too far with
Mhm.
self initiative, and we've lost the focus of, okay, but what about the other people I'm impacting through my decision or through my action? And it's good to reflect on emotion, but we have to then carry that through into appropriate action, right? It can't all be about me and my emotion always,
Yeah, I
because
think I
we
think the
live in
term
a
self
culture of
care. Yeah,
community. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The
So,
term self care has gotten kind of twisted a little bit too, and it's a fine line between self
mhm.
care and maybe selfish,
Right.
and
Yeah, it's an edge. It's a razor edge.
and the kids get a lot of their information on what something like self care is sadly from social media,
Right.
right? And which leads me to my next big question.
Oh, good segue.
Thank
That
you.
was professional level.
Because you also mentioned earlier, like when they make bad decisions, somebody's there to film it, right, and do
Yeah.
something a little bit shady with it. So through your active engagement on social media platforms, you share insights on educational technology and multiple topics, like recently AI with TikTok walks and things like that, in
Hmm.
fun ways, such as morning walks. What inspired you to take such an authentic, non-traditional approach to reach educators?
Do you mean the TikTok walk specifically with the non-traditional?
Well, it's not traditional, and I mean I end up seeing it on Instagram, but it's like yeah, what's Becky talking about today? It's quick.
Right. 1 minute.
It's got a theme, right?
Yeah.
But it's just someone walking and talking, and it's
Yeah.
nice.
Well,
And
thank
you're in a
you.
very nice area, so it's like, oh, I'm walking with Becky for a minute here. All right.
Right. Right. It's just normally there's trees in the background. Sometimes it's really rainy here at my house in Seattle. But thank you for the nice words. I have wanted to be more present in video format
Mhm.
for a while, like a couple years. Um Several even, like COVID even. But it's really I have a lot of things going on in my life like we all do, and so it hasn't been a high priority for me to spend time like recording and editing and the backgrounds and the lighting and I know what makes great video because we do video for I2E. And so I think it took me a long time, but a couple of months ago I was lap swimming, which is where I get my best ideas, is lap swimming. And I thought, okay, hang on, I probably have something to say about every day because I do. I
Mhm.
have opinions, and so I feel like I could talk for a minute a day. And I walk my dog every single day, rain or shine, doesn't matter the weather or the time. And I honestly had kind of slacked off a little bit on the midday walk, which I wanted to bring back because I do work remotely most of the time unless I'm traveling. So anyway, it was just a combination of factors like, hey, I really want to do this midday walk like I have for years. I want to bring that back to a commitment. I'd gotten weird in January. And also, I don't have to have a cool set and fancy lighting and, look a certain way every day. Like, I can just, this is how I look. This can just be me. And I do have the time to record a 1 minute thought while I'm walking.
Mhm.
And my very kind community, like the first one or two I did, it was so sweet. I got DMs and iMessages and people were like, "No, no, this is great. You should be doing these." And it was really fun to get that feedback. So I was like, "All right, I can keep doing this little 1 minute." Um and and yeah, it's been really good. And every day I think, yeah, I have something to talk about. Like it's not hard to come up with 1 minute of one little snippet topic, especially around AI because it's moving so quickly and it's something I'm passionate about and am very involved with. So it's been really fun. But I have been very active on social media for at least a decade, just sharing thoughts and ideas and wishes. I've had major companies make large changes because me and others were advocating loudly on social media for something to change on their platform. And I've just seen the power of connecting with people, people like you, on social media that you wouldn't normally be in a room with. And so
I totally felt like I knew you when I met you in Illinois, and I had to keep reminding myself, yeah, she has no idea who I am. So,
you're like, oh, we haven't met
you
before.
know what I mean? So it was like, but it is true, and I mean that in a really good way because there are so many people we get to meet when we travel for conferences, and there's an immediate like I feel like I know you, and that's
Yeah.
usually a compliment. In your case, that definitely was, and I know I appreciate it, and it's so important to reduce some of that intimidation factor that someone can build up if you're a leader in these spaces, or if you're just out there in these spaces. And like I said, folks, for any of you that meet Becky at a conference, she's the real deal. She's very, very
Thanks.
nice and intentional about speaking and helping you in the right direction. So please don't feel that level of intimidation that I felt, even though I was a featured speaker at the time.
Yeah, you're telling me this for the first time, and I don't
I
even
know,
know what you're talking
but
about.
because you know what? Because you made me feel so comfortable, and so it was not a thing. But and then of course agreeing to come on here and letting me kind of
Yeah,
pick your brain, and for those of my audience who also are interested in kind of understanding, how someone like you gets to advocating. It starts small and then it grows, and uh, um, it's if it's people first, there's going to be an audience, right? And
yeah,
I think I hearing you say that for me just clicked so many things about the power of what you do. Now, my lens here on the podcast is justice, and so we've had a great conversation. I appreciate it, but what we do here is always save the same question for the end. So
yes.
we've got you here. So Becky Keene, what does it mean to you to teach for justice?
So I love that you asked this question last, because this is an amazing question. And I view justice maybe in a little different sense. So I know sometimes our focus on justice is very much about an imbalance or a disparity or something that is unequal. And that is important to recognize. But one of the things that I like to recognize about the definition of justice is this opportunity to support someone else. Um, Justice embodies not only fairness and equity, but also uplifting someone else. So it's almost this picture of, someone being maybe on a pedestal or a podium and someone else being lower positionally because of something maybe not even um, in their opportunity to control, right? And you're actually reaching to that person and lifting them up next to you. So justice for me is about teaching that it's not about like enforcement or punishment. It's about like dignity and meeting others with compassion and creating this level environment where everyone can work together. Not that we have to meet in the middle, but that we're lifting everyone up to be in a similarly supported space. Does that make sense?
It makes a ton of sense, and the word dignity is so crucial there, and recognizing that in other humans is really important result, I think, of people who view just navigating life with the sense of justice, which you clearly do. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. I think people are going to benefit very much from listening to this. Where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you and benefit from your support?
Well, my website is the great landing page, beckykeene.com. So I'm not hard to find. If you do a web search for Becky Keene, I come up. I'm on all of your social media platforms. I'm just lucky enough to not have a super common name, I guess. So yeah, my website is a good landing place though. It has my blog, my books, my content, and then links to all my social.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you around the way.
Same, Alfredo. It's a joy. So thanks.